Everyone, hope you all are keeping well and safe. I, Rajkumar Gupta, welcome you all for the National Online Webinar Series on Mediation, hosted by Sayaji Rao Center for Alternate Dispute Resolution, conducted by Faculty of Law, the Maharaj Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, in collaboration with Mediators India. Mediation is an age-old process of dispute resolution practiced since the Vedic period. It is a low-cost keeping the matter, especially family matter, secret among the parties and the mediators. Moreover, the solution is not imposed on any party. It is a solution that both the parties agreed to. It gives an effective solution in a peaceful manner, thus for aiding the participants in bringing awareness for a social transformation. We are conducting this mediation webinar series. Today, we we are having a second webinar of our mediation series. We are obliged to have with us our distinguished speaker, Ms. Kavita Balakrishna, advocate and mediator, and Ms. Ekta Behal, advocate and mediator, to enlighten us with their knowledge and experiences. I welcome you on behalf of Faculty of Law, the Maharaj Sayaji Rao of University of Baroda. Before starting with today's session, I would request all the participants to follow a few webinar etiquettes for a smooth session. Please keep your mic muted and cameras off during the whole session. Do not use the share option. In case of any question related to the session, kindly mail us on scadr-law@msubaroda.ac.in so that we can put the same before our speaker during our question answer round. Now, I request Ms. Jankana Jani to please play a university song.
सारवनारा अमे ज्योति जलावी सृष्टिनावरी सहसा सर्जनहारा अमे वडोदराना विद्यापीठना सपना सारवनारा अमे ज्योति जलावी सृष्टिनावरी सहसा सर्जनहारा हमें गगन कुसुम कर धरनारा हमें मगन मगन थई फरनारा मगन बाथ धरनारा सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं नो मन्त्रनन्तर हरनारा
Now I request Ms. Fiona Dias, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, the Maharaj Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, to introduce our Professor Dr. Uma Iyer Madam, OSD Faculty of Law, the Maharaj Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, our esteemed speakers, the participants, and of course, my colleagues. I'm grateful for the opportunity to introduce Professor Uma Iyer. Professor Uma Iyer has over 3 decades of academic and administrative experience. Currently, ma'am is the Officer on Special Duty at the Faculty of Law and the Director of the MDC, the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. She has also served as the former Dean of Faculty of Family and Community Sciences and also has been the member of Senate and Syndicate of the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. Madam specializes in the area of food nutrition and her research is related to the dietary management of non-communicable diseases like diabetes and heart diseases, as well as adolescent nutrition with special focus on the midday meal scheme. Due to her exemplary work, Madam has been invited as a reviewer for the midday meal scheme for different states of India by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. She has also been on board of eminent bodies of different universities as well as committees of Government of India and Government of Gujarat. Madam's contribution in her field is illustrated through her publications. Madam has authored 2 books and has over 100 publications in both national and international journals. Madam has been the principal investigator of various minor and major projects funded by the government, NGO, and industries. She has led projects for Britannia Industries Limited, ICMR-JRF, Kellogg's India Limited, WHO, ICMR, Petronet LNG Limited, GACL, GIPCL, GSFC, Jeevraj Mehta Samarth Health Foundation, and Jeevraj Mehta Hospital, Ahmedabad, just to name a few. Madam has also contributed in the development of e-content on various topics for e-Pathshala. Madam's noteworthy contribution to academics has resulted in her being a recipient of many national and international awards from eminent institutions and organizations like the Indian Dietetic Association, Sardar Patel University, Home Science Association of India, ICF-THS at Jawaharlal Nehru University, AIIMS at New Delhi, and Charotar University of Science and Technology. Through her guidance and encouragement, the Faculty of Law has been ranked as first in the state of Gujarat and third in the top outstanding law university schools of excellence by CSR GHRDC Law School Survey 2021. It is my privilege to invite Professor Uma Iyer to deliver the welcome address. To you, ma'am.
Thank you, Fiona, and good morning, everyone. Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, Professor Vijay Kumar Srivastava. Our keynote speakers today are two advocates and mediators, uh, Kavita Balakrishnan and Miss Ekta Bal, and all the staff of the Faculty of Law and dear students. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's national webinar series, the second of the series on mediation, which is jointly organized by the Sayaji Rao Center for Alternate Dispute Resolution of the Faculty of Law and the Mediators India. Today is the second session, and we have two eminent speakers who are going to deliver the talk on civil and family mediation by renowned Miss Kavita Balakrishnan from the Mediators India, and the second important issue on implicit biases in mediation will be dealt by the advocate and mediator, Ms. Ekta Bal. I welcome both of you to today's session, and like last session, which was very interesting, and the students and everybody had given a very positive feedback. We are looking forward to today's session. And as the sitting judge had said that we should develop a PG diploma in mediation, I think at the end of the lecture series, we will come out with concrete plans in coming out with the PG diploma in mediation with the support of Mediators India. I welcome you once again to this session and looking forward to learning new things from today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear ma'am. Now, I request Dr. Namrata Lohar, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, to talk about webinar series. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Rajkumar. Respected Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Srivastava, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, Professor Uma Iyer, Officer on Special Duty and the Webinar Director of the Faculty of Law, our distinguished speakers, Mr. P. Kavita Balakrishnan ma'am and Ms. Ekta Bahal ma'am, my coordinator, Ms. Kavita Bhatia, my colleagues from the Faculty of Law, participants, students, and attendees. I am pleased to share with you that the National Webinar Series on Mediation, under the aegis of Sayaji Rao Center for Alternate Dispute Resolution, in collaboration with Mediators India, kick-started on 12th of February 2022. We were blessed to have with us Honorable Mr. Justice R.M. Chaya, Judge of the High Court of Gujarat, who was there for give us blessings and give us inputs on how the mediation and what is the importance of mediation in the modern age. A lot of discussions were held and a lot of courtroom experiences and the real life experiences were shared by Sir. Along with Honorable Mr. Justice R.M. Chaya, we had another eminent speaker on day one, and that was Ms. Pooja Anand, who has an experience of 25 years of practice in the Supreme Court of India. We find that this mediation is an excellent opportunity for everyone. Conflicts and conflict resolution has always been a part of our life. It is not that we have never resolved any conflicts, but when we talk about resolving the conflicts from the legal aspects, it definitely requires some kind of training and some kind of inputs. And that is the reason we have eminent speakers throughout the series talk about different aspects of mediation, to discuss with us how mediation can be carried out and what can be the different avenues in mediation. It is not that mediation is that easy. It does inculcate or does involve a lot of challenges. And hence, all the sessions that we are going to have, we had and we are going to have, are going to focus on a lot of legal aspects, a lot of different avenues which are important for all of us to understand and to understand the intricacies involved in these all aspects of mediation. Today we have these two sessions. Our speakers have already been there, and over a period of 3 more weeks to go, because the series is spread across in 5 days. So we'll be having the last session will be having on 12th of March. So we have 3 more weeks to go after today. And in these 3 weeks to go, we are going to have again eminent personalities to talk about mediation, the legal aspects of mediation, some of the important and very interesting topics that will be discussed in the forthcoming sessions would be courtroom observations on mediation, UN Citral and Singapore Convention, community mediation, role of youth in mediation. I feel that all of these topics will definitely give a lot of inputs to all the attendees and participants and will enable them to conduct the mediation and understand the nuances of mediation. I'm sure that the participants will receive enormous benefits on attending the session. I would like to place on record that the first session that was held on 12th of February, we had collected the feedback from all the participants and we have received excellent feedback from all the participants. I am expecting that in the sessions to come, you all will get the maximum, you will all receive the maximum benefit, and you will try to get the most of the things from the eminent speakers. For any doubts, for any questions, we will share an email in the chat box. You can write your questions and the moderator will be putting the questions to the speakers. With this, I would like to conclude, and I would like to wish all of you a very best for considering mediation as one of the best career opportunities. I wish you all the best and I wish you all a very happy learning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request Dr. Sanjay Solanki, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, to introduce Ms. Kavita Balakrishnan, Advocate and Mediator. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rajkumar. Respected eminent speakers, Professor Uma Iyer Madam, OSD, Faculty of Law, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, my colleague teachers and dear participants. It is my great pleasure to introduce today's eminent speaker, Ms. P. Kavita Balakrishnan. Madam has graduated in law from the Government Ambedkar Law College, Chennai in 1996. She was enrolled as an advocate on 9 September 1996. She started practice with Mr. T. S. Subramaniam Advocates at Villapuram on civil and criminal side. After 2 years of practice, she joined the office of Mr. G. Devdas Advocate High Court, Chennai. Later in the 2000, she joined the office of Mr. D. Veerasekaran High Court, Chennai, and then Standing Council of Tamil Nadu Housing Board. She assisted government leaders in several government cases and particularly housing boards. Madam assisted government leaders in several government cases. She coordinated in publication of law book, that is Land Acquisition, caveat author by her father, Mr. K.P. Pallaninam, former special government leader, High Courts at Madras. Madam has authored the book Law Relating to Tamil Nadu Housing Board. Madam having certain experience regarding the mediations, she underwent mediation training with Ms. Geeta Ravindra, formerly of the Virginia Supreme Court in 2008, and she underwent advanced capsule training and refresher training by the Supreme Court of India's Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee. In 2008, empaneled as mediators with the Tamil Nadu Mediation Center, Madras High Court, Family Courts, District Court, Chennai. Madam has conducted nearly 1,000 mediations and handled several sensitive courts referred mediation cases and private cases, including corporate and commercial cases. In the year 2017, she underwent training of trainers program with the Supreme Court of India's Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee. Presently, Madam is mediation trainer with Tamil Nadu Mediation and Conciliation Center. Under the aegis of Supreme Court of India, MCPC, and the Tamil Nadu Mediation and Conciliation Center, conducted mediation training program for lawyers and judges in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. She has conducted online mediation training program for mediators, the first of its kind in India, and she has conducted several online mediation webinars, workshop, trainings, and had the privilege of judging the mediation competition. As far as the present condition is concerned, currently the madam holding the post of Secretary Mediators India. She is also the President Tamil Nadu Mediators and Conciliation Association. Madam is the founder, ambassador of mediations, and in 2015, Madam, she was trained and certified by the International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution, which is an autonomous organization under the aegis of Ministry of Law and Justice. So this is the small introduction about the madam. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to introduce the madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Now I request our keynote speaker, Ms. Kavita Balakrishna ma'am, to address our audience. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for this wonderful introduction. I really appreciate the number of students, participants that is showing like around 211 participants here. So it is really encouraging to see all the participants here in this webinar. So can I screen share this, my PPT? Today's discussion will have the contents of like civil mediation, family mediation, and the role of advocates. Okay. These three important topics are very relevant in this scenario of mediation. And it is very important that we learn this, we get an introduction to it, and it takes a lot of effort to learn and gain experience in this subject. But I'm just going to give you an introduction about it. Mediation. Let's begin with the definition of mediation. Mediation is a structured, confidential dispute resolution process wherein the parties in dispute voluntarily and mutually agreed to try and resolve their disputes with the assistance of a neutral third party called mediator by means of skilled communications and negotiations. Basically, mediation is a process designed to give parties an opportunity to explore their settlement options before they invest large amounts of money and other resources into litigation. At present in India, mediation in India can be initiated in three ways. First, by providing for it in a dispute resolution clause in a contract. When there is a contract, there can be always a clause saying that in case of any dispute, they will resort to, first resort will be mediation, then arbitration, then litigation, instead of just going straight away to litigation. So then the other method is this: when there is pending litigation, the court can refer the matter under Section 89 CPC. This was detailedly explained in the last webinar. I hope you remember. Our sitting judge was really exceptional in describing in detail about Section 89 and its applications. And the next method is like mandatory pre-litigation mediation. There are certain acts in our country now where it says it is provided that the parties in dispute have to try a pre-litigation mediation, which is compulsory, and only in failure, when there is a failure report, they can move to litigation. So this is the third way of getting into mediation. What are the kinds institutions or what are the methods we can do the mediations? The popularly known medium is the court annex program. The court annex program is being run by the Supreme Court of India under the Mediation Conciliation Project. The court annexed mediation is the biggest form of approach where it has been done. It is done under the aegis of Supreme Court of India. There's a committee there with this Collegium of Supreme Court Judges, which is called the MCPC, the Mediation and Conciliation Project Committee. And the next big thing is institutional mediation that has gained importance in most of the metropolitan cities of the states capitals like Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Chennai, Bangalore, where you have a lot of institutional mediations. And the next is ad hoc mediation. Ad hoc mediation means the parties try to resolve their dispute with the help of a trained, certified mediators in a private forum without any institution or a court and experience. They approach the mediator privately and they try and resolve the dispute. So, and the next is as I already told you, there's a mandatory pre-litigation mediation which can be done through the court or institution, even through the ad hoc mediation. What is civil mediation? Coming to civil mediation, because the topic today is like civil mediation. So how do we define civil mediation? Civil mediation can be broadly defined as a process of mediation for the matters relating to civil, commercial, workplace, and matters other than matrimonial and non-compoundable criminal offenses or cases. Civil mediation includes cases pertaining to partition, like in shares between in the family, inheritance, and labor disputes, recovery of money. Labor disputes means it includes the employer-employee disputes and all these salary, pension, all these comes under labor disputes. Then recovery of money. That also includes the commercial check bounce cases and mortgages and all that. And specific performance, it's a contract like it is based on a contract, as you all know. When somebody agrees to do certain things and they fail to do it, and the people come to court asking the court to make the other party do that specific performance which they have already agreed but failed to do it. Okay, so in those cases also we can do mediations. And damages, and that is civil damages. So we can there is a huge scope for it. Injunctions and declarations. Most of the cases in civil matters, even in ship arrest and all these things, there is a prohibition, like people cannot access their property, or there is a stay, like they are not able to use it the way they want. So they are being injuncted from it. So they come for mediation. And declaration, they want to declare their right, but it might be a right or it might be a something which is being shared by others. So that declaration also needs a lot of clarifications. But final verdict will be given, even though the parties agree on it, the final verdict will be given by the court. Then comes the dispute between landlord and tenant. With the new Rent Control Act, and there is a lot of dispute being resolved amicably because there is a scope for mediation there. And the landlord tenant, they can resolve their disputes in a much better way. Real estates, when we come to real estates, this is the huge chunk of cases that is there where the buying and selling of the property, including constructions. Now we see a lot of sprawling of development taking place in all over the country, the flats or industries of which has been constructed. And the construction industry has a lot of stakeholders, and there is a lot of things that might not work well. So there disputes arises. And the next part of the real estate, another thing is engineering. How do they do it? So when they are not able to work out well, there is a problem. So people have a dispute. So these disputes can be resolved by mediation. And the next part of the second part of, I would call it more as a commercial thing, is motor accident cases. That is the compensation for the victims and the insured and all that. And cases relating to insurance, reinsurance, life assurance. The partner then comes under the partnership or shareholders, commercial and business contracts. Consumers cases, which is where consumer cases have to undergo the mandatory pre-litigation mediation under the new Consumer Act. Then there's a scope, wonderful scope available there for sports, entertainment, and media industry, which is a very secluded and held together a fort where very few people are able to get inside that, and there will be a few people who are practicing in that field, specializing in that field. So there is a dispute. They can always resort to an out-of-box thinking here in sports, entertainment, and media. Financial services and banking. The banking services, they initially started with the banking ombudsman. There is a banking ombudsman and financial services. There, the ombudsman acts as the mediator in resolving dispute at the first level when there is a complaint by the consumer or the people who have some problem with the deficit of services. Then the next important aspect is the transportation sector disputes. That includes marine, aviation, and energy. Now, with all these things, there are a lot of scopes in civil mediations, but let me say, give you a good glance about the real life experience. Okay, I would like to share 2 stories of mediations where I had personally mediated. So I know what happened there, every bit of it. So I would like to share this. From this, I learned a lot. I also hope that you will also learn a lot. The first is a partition suit. In this partition suit, it is a very interesting one, which I will never forget, is that it had the scope of all civil mediation. Interestingly, all the aspects of civil litigation was there in the suit. The suit was the parties in the suit. There was 6 brothers and 1 sister in the suit. The suit was initiated by the first brother, and the sister was the eldest among all. So the first brother initiated the suit, and the suit had gone through a lot of process. And when it was referred to mediation, the suit age was 32 years. In the meantime, all of them have lost in their family either 1 or 2 members. They are dear ones. It's a long journey of 32 years. Okay. So when they were there, they had lot of ego problems, a lot of sorrow in them. They were not able to face each other. They wouldn't sit together in one place, and they will always argue like, why I will not come and sit, I will not stay here if the other person comes here. So it was a huge commotion with a huge number of people. And by the time the litigation came up to mediation, one or two brothers expired, and their legal heirs were impleaded, and all those things had happened. So this suit had a huge number of participants. And usually the mediation starts with an opening statement, getting both the parties together and giving them an opinion about what is giving them a brief about what is mediation, how it is going to happen, and making them at ease about the process and how they can resolve the dispute. But I was not able to do that for nearly 3 or 4 sessions because none of them agreed to sit together when the other person was there. So I had no choice. Then I had to do it a private session with each small group which they were into, and do the opening statement 3 or 4 times. After the opening statement, people were little comfortable knowing that it is voluntary, confidential, and there will not be any force, and they can think about it. So okay, fine, I'm okay. Then 1 round, the 2nd round, 3rd round, the people came to know about each other, their other side's perspective. The empathy was flowing there. We could feel the empathy around. And the groups, my small groups amalgamated to become 5 groups to 3 groups, then 2 groups, and finally to 1 group. After the 6th or 7th session, I had 1 complete set of all the parties in the suit. It was a huge room. I used to occupy 2 big rooms, and we used to have all the people there. Then when I had all of them there, I just wanted to, I did not want to talk to them about the partition. So I just talked to them about, like, just asking them, like, I would like to know about your family and how about yourself and each one of you. Can you just tell me? And most of them were saying about their family, their young, their when they were very small children. The story goes like this: the father of the children died when they were very young. The eldest sister and her mother took care of all these 6 brothers, and they educated them, and they gave them a minimum education which is possible for them, and they got them all married. And the youngest of the elder brothers, when the sister was 19 years old, the youngest brother was born. So the sister felt almost he was like her own son, because she was then few months before only she got married. So there was a bond between her and all her brothers, as though they were their sons. And they also revered her equal to their mother. Their mother passed away soon after the sister got married. The sister's husband took care of them, all the brothers, as his own sons, and he never differentiated anybody. He was very friendly with them. So all of them liked their sister husband also. It was a peaceful family. And finally, when everybody grew up and then everybody had their own family, and they went out of the Sood property and they all lived together separately. Only 2 of them were living in the Sood property. When the suit was initiated, 2 brothers who were in the Sood property had a problem with the building because it was a dilapidated building, 50-year-old building. So they didn't know how to resolve the issue. They started fighting, and then it came to court, and through court the proceeding has started. While the case was in appeal, the sister's husband died, and one of the brother died, and slowly the legal errors were impleted. When it came to the second appeal, another person was, and again impleading petitions were filed. So this is the scenario. So the best thing was, all the relationship, they started talking to each other. The relationship was revived. From day one, they never wanted to look at each other. At the end of the day, all the sessions, they used to bring food for the others, and they all used to sit together and have a great lunch in the court campus. And it was a wonderful thing to see, such a beautiful scene, because everybody was so friendly and they were so much of love that is being shared with the food. And the dispute was resolved. You wouldn't believe, actually they were fighting for a property which is worth very, very few lakhs, and the property measuring around 780 square foot. Even if he had partitioned the suit with all the legal errors in the suit, most of them wouldn't have got more than 50 square foot. But it ended it in a good note with restoring relationship, and the property was given to 2 people, and others were compensated. And in fact, there was 2 marriages that was celebrated during this mediation that was conducted. They were looking out for the bride and bridegroom for the others in the family and all that. So it was a memorable moment for me as a mediator, and like they came to the mediation center and gave the invitation to the mediation center and all that, which was very new to the center and me, which I will never forget. Just imagine, in case this has been only in litigation, they would have been rivals till their death, and the dispute wouldn't have resolved the way it was resolved that day in mediation. So that is the miracle that mediation can make. It involved an injunction, it involved a stay, it involved a declaration, there was a partition, and there was a claim of a will, and there was a claim of third party claim. You name any civil cause of action, it was there in the partition suit. Everything was resolved because they were able to find a common thread of a love and relationship, which you can never find in a court proceedings. So that was the first suit. And the second one, which impressed me, was that it's a partnership firm. It is again for a partnership firm, a shop. The father had 4 sons, and the 4 sons were all working in the same shop. When it started with a small shop and it became a branded shop with a huge shopping center and everything, it slowly developed. By 40-50 years, it had its own reputation. The youngest of the brothers was well educated, and he was an engineer, and he had his own dreams, and he was the most cherished child in the family. So he was given more importance. He didn't spend much time in the development of the shop and everything. He was there. And at one fine day, the father expired, and there was a property, the shop, that shopping center, where it has to be partitioned. By the time the father expired, he also had made arrangement, because all 3 brothers were given opportunities, money and everything, set up their own businesses in different parts of the city. They were all married and well settled. And the younger one also was married, and he was also settled, but all of them together were running the shop. When the father expired, the shop that was in dispute, everybody decided, okay, fine, we will divide the property. We will just take, like, each of us will take 10% of the share of the property, that is 30%, and 10% the share to the mother, and that will make 40%, and the rest 60% shall go to the younger brother. That was fair enough, and it went on well. And they had an agreement on that, and it was going on well. And when the younger brother got married, and he had his own passions, and he was just looking out for the other alternatives, and going and doing a lot of adventures, and he was also involved in cryptocurrency, and share market. He did not have much time to concentrate in the shop. So there was a huge loss, and the reputation was slowly coming down, because there was not much people were not complaining, and then people were not happy with the way the service that was rendered, and the complaints that was not redressed. So there was a lot of complaints, and that complaints reached the other brothers and everybody. And it went to the peak when the younger brothers' matrimonial life was in a dispute. So it went to the court, and there the younger brother the wives demanded divorce. So it was a prestigious issue. They were a good, family had a good reputation in the thing, and they were all very close-knitted one. So they did not want to have a separation. They wanted to resolve it amicably. So they chose mediation, and they came to mediation. In the mediation, it started there, and in the mediation, we come to find out the problem is that the property, the shop that is supposed to bring in more revenue and take care of the children and the wife, is not fetching that revenue. And this younger brother is not taking care of the family and the shop, and he has his own passions. So there was a lot of different thoughts and perspectives. So she was all along demanding a divorce. Then there was a compromise, and after that compromise, with the help of the other brothers, they came to conclusion that the wife, out of the 60% of the share, the wife and the child will get 40% of the share, and 20% the younger brother will retain for him for the development of the shop, and he will concentrate in the shopping complex and everything. So that was the settlement arrived. But when they came back to the home and everything was set up, the younger brother was not satisfied. But still, he maintained with his family and everything. The shop was not to the thing. Once again, there was a problem in the partnership firm. Again, there was a dispute. So since they know mediation earlier, so they resorted to mediation again. So here the other brother said, right, since you don't know to run the shop, they were just point blank. You can't handle it well, so let's take and handle it well by ourselves. We will give your wife the instead of 40%, we will give her 50%. And we will take the 10% for the running of the shop and 40% for all of us, mother and 3 brothers. And you can just do whatever you like. You go in pursuit of your passion. The younger brother was not satisfied. He was so devastated. After there were several rounds of talks, and finally, in one session, we were just sitting and talking about him. Like, can you just tell me about your brothers, the thing, your family, how you were, and all these things. The more words that came out of him was the reputation and the sense of belonging to the family. And then we understood that it is not that the percentage of the share that he values. He feels that suppose he does not have a share in the family property, it means it will give an impression that he does not belong to that family. And he will be outcast in not only in the family, also in the clan. The community may not accept him or regard him worthy, and he will lose all his reputations and he will be nowhere. His own identity will be lost. That was the crisis of the younger brother. We identified the crisis and we asked him, would you like to talk to this to your brothers? He said, my second brother he will not listen, third brother will not listen, and all these complaints were coming up. And finally we asked him, who would you like to talk to first? He said, I would like to talk to my eldest brother. He's a very sensible man. I can talk to him. So we called him and we had a private session with the eldest and the youngest brother and the mother watching them. They had a hearty talk, and at the end of the session, the mother and the eldest brother understood the problem of the younger one, and they said, okay, no problem. We will keep you back in the share the thing. And the mother said, you can take my share also, right? You take my share also. So you get 30% of the share, and you can be a sleeping barter. You can go in pursuit of your passion, but the other brothers will take care of the property, but you are still a part of this partnership. So this idea came out from the mother. That was an interesting thing. The mother knows well how to feed the crying child. That child, she knew the needs of the child. She understood well. So was the elder brother. And everybody got back together. The entire relationship restored and they were happy. So this is another thing that started with the commercial aspect. And there was a lot of matrimonial issues and other things. And once again, it ended with the civil mediation. So this is a wonderful learning which we think like it is not just the cause of action or the dispute which is presented in the petition alone will resolve the dispute. The mediator is bound to look beyond the petition. In fact, personally, I don't read the petition or documents that the parties provided to us through the court mediations. No, because it will be one-sided or exaggerated. So I don't take it. I just read what the prayer or the cause of action, something like that. Very few points. That's all. Not in detail. I don't take them verbatim because it might not help and it will also create a bias in the mediator. So I hope you liked the two experiences in civil mediation. Now let's move on to family mediation. In all human societies, the family is the primary social unit, and as an institution, the family is older than the religion or the state. Families have a crucial role in social development. Family mediation is a process wherein the disputes relating to the spouse, children, or extended family are resolved with the help of the mediator. The objective of the family mediation is to help the spouses reach a fair agreement with respect to matrimonial dispute. I'm just stressing on this, saying that fair agreement. The fair agreement does not mean when there is a dispute in a matrimonial dispute that is coming from a family court or a pre-litigation mediation, they have to go for a divorce or they have to get themselves reunited. There is a wrong concept like when it is a matrimonial dispute, the mediation is meant only to reunite the parties. No, it is not that way. It must be acceptable and fair to both the parties. It does not mean they have to get themselves reunited as a family or get themselves divorced. No, that is not there. Because if you are going with that mood, you are biased and you are predetermined of what you want to reach the goal. So that is not the criteria. Fair agreement, it should be legally binding and it should be acceptable by both the parties. The types of civil cases in matrimonial disputes comes around this. Restitution of marriage, when one person deserts the other, they may have tried for a restitution of marriage, and sometimes divorce or sometimes declaration. Declaration, it may be, one thing is to declare the marriage is null and void, right? And in Muslim Marriages Act, the wife can file a declaration suit in family court declaring that the khula that has been the divorce that has been already declared in outside the court may be declared valid and dissolve their marriage. And there are 6 conditions wherein the Muslim marriages can be declared void or dissolved by the court. So the declaration suit comes under that category. And the next is the custody and guardianship. Custody of the children and guardianship also. When I say guardianship, there are 2 things involved in custody. One is the custodian and the guardianship. Okay, the custodian is that whoever has the child in their custody, right? And the guardianship by nature, by law, the parents are the guardians. Okay, so even today, even after so many judgments and rulings, that people think like that only the father, with the signature of the father only you can do everything. Only the mother cannot do anything because the father is the guardian of the child. The proportion has changed now after many judgments. Even the single mother, they can be the guardians. There is no requisite that they need to get the signature of the father for their passport and other authorities. And the next is the parenting support, which is very, very essential when the parents are divorcing. And visitation. Visitation is, even though parents are separated, the child needs the support of both the father and the mother. They should visit each of them should have an opportunity to visit the child at least and have some time, spend some time with the child and give moral and value support to the child. And financial support, that is very crucial. Financial support is maintenance for the life of the child, wife, and the alimony. Alimony is that then there is a divorce, that's a conclusion of the marriage, paying a small compensation called alimony. Then in case there is a property or something, joint property or the property devolved or these things, that will also come under the civil cases. Criminal cases is under the Domestic Violence Act and Section 498A IPC, that is also dowry harassment and all these things. And then the criminal cases, maintenance can also be filed under criminal laws. So there might be, when there is a mediation, we need to make sure whether it comes under the criminal maintenance or the civil maintenance. So we'll know from which court they are coming and we can just check that out. So the next thing, important aspect is pre-litigation mediation, family mediation. It is the most appropriate thing that is to be done. But it is here in India, we don't have a family dispute resolution, FDR, is not mandatory in India, but it is mandatory in European and American countries, America and other countries. The family dispute resolution process, unless the people who are in this family dispute, they have to go through this process and get themselves resolved. If it is not resolved, they have to get a report saying that the dispute has not been resolved, and they can pursue litigation. Only then they can file the application in the court and they can pursue litigation. But that is not here in India. It's a new concept for India. And a neutral evaluation. Neutral evaluation is also not here popular in India, but it is very much there in European and other countries. By neutral evaluation, I mean is that there will be a third party neutral, not a mediator, another person with the expert knowledge on that particular field. It may be a mediator or any other person, basically a legal person. They will evaluate the case of both the parties, or even if one person goes to neutral evaluation, they will check their case and they'll tell them, say, this is the best thing in your case and this is the worst thing in your case, and what would absolutely come to you when you go to court, or what might happen or what might not happen, and they will give their neutral opinion. They will not side one person or the other. They will remain neutral and evaluate the case as a subject and give their opinion. So after the neutral evaluation, the parties will be able to know actual facts, actual things that might happen or that might not happen. Because in most of the family cases, when we come, people come, there are a lot of newspaper that's circulating news with big numbers of maintenance and compensation awarded to many stars. Okay, the limelight people. The local people who are in the lower strata, they read those papers, and when they come for a matrimonial dispute, they will be asking in crores or lakhs. But the person who they are asking, they know very well, their spouse may not be able to maintain a lifestyle, maintain the 3-day meal or a house, but still they will claim a high stake. Because we'll just ask them, where did you get these numbers? They will tell, no, ma'am, did you see the papers? Did you hear the news? They told us this. Those two may not be in a comparable situation, but they hardly realize that. So when they go through this neutral evaluation, they will know, they will be grounded to know what they can achieve. Next, what are the things that can be cases that can be referred from which court? The family court, where there are established family courts, the family court is mandatory that it should send to mediation. And the magistrate courts, when there is a criminal 123 CRPC, that they send for mediation. And even in domestic violence cases also we are getting cases. District courts, like in bail applications in 498A, dowry harassment or other things. And high courts in CMA, transfer CMPs, appeals, and all these matters will being referred to mediation. Even when it reaches Supreme Court, right, in case of transfer CMP from one state to another state, or an appeal in the Supreme Court, there also the Supreme Court tries its level to send it to mediation and resolve the dispute. Now, when is the best time to resolve the dispute through mediation? It is ideal time will be the kitchen table time. Everywhere you can just sit down and talk at the kitchen table. Agreements can be made through mediations. Just discuss, speak your heart out, tell our wants and needs, understand each other. If that is possible, that is the greatest thing that can happen. And next stage is the pre-litigation stage. If that kitchen table did not work, fine, even pre-litigation with the third party who was not a family member, then third party can try and resolve dispute. There also it is not possible, then going before the police or filing a complaint or FIR, or the other authorities like for custody or the police protection or social welfare department, those authorities can intervene, and that moment also it can be sent for mediation and counseling. So there also it is a wonderful opportunity to resolve dispute. But once, so most of the time we get is that he or she has just taken me to the police. I was harassed in the police station. The authorities harassed me. So I don't want to live with such kind of a person. So it is a tormenting thought for me. Most of the time it comes to us, but it takes a lot of time and to bring them down, understand the situation, everything. Okay. And the next thing will be the first, if it is not resolved at all these stages, the first thing is first appearance of both the parties in court. Okay. When both the parties come together, the court can refer the matter to mediation. Okay, if it doesn't work that time, then before the trial begins, because they don't know who is going to say what. So at that time also we can, it is an ideal time to do mediation. And the next thing is that suppose they are not able to arrive at that, even though after the trial, they know what the other person has said and what they have said, and they know where they stand, that what will be the result of the litigation. Then that is kind of an evaluation time, the self-evaluation of them. So that must be a rocking time for them, swaying each other. That time also it is good to send to mediation. So even if just before judgment is being reserved, they can come to mediation and resolve a dispute. Now some real life experiences in family mediations. First, I would like to take you to an interesting case of divorce that was referred to me from family court. It was the couples were highly educated with the double doctorate, and they were doing research and all that. And they had engaged the senior most counsels in the city, and both of them were. They had said like, "Ma'am, we have already done several rounds of mediation, and the parties understand very well, and we just they really want separation, and everything is being sorted out. Please go ahead and talk to them and conclude the divorce." And after the opening session, first discussion, everything was over. Then both the couple said, "We don't want to discuss any longer. We have decided we want to go for a divorce." Then I said, "Are you sure? Don't want to explore any more things with me." He said, "No, we don't want to." Then I called the advocates and then asked him, "Then you can prepare an agreement for a divorce, and then you can file it in court. So why don't you get the agreements ready?" They said, "Yes, ma'am, that is what we are doing. We are preparing the agreements. We'll get it typed out. It might take another half an hour or 1 hour for us to do it." So I said, "Okay, fine. I'm going to handle other cases. I will wait for your cases. I'll adjourn this case and take up the next case." Yeah, they were all happy. The seniors all left, and along with the seniors, all the battalion of juniors went. Then I was just looking at the couple, right? The wife was very silent for a long time, and her body language was not very conducive. So I was just asking her, "Would you like to talk to me in private? Is there something like you would like to talk to me before your advocates could come and you can sign your agreement? Would you like to use that opportunity?" He said, wife said, "Yes, of course, I would love to, ma'am. I was just waiting for that opportunity." The husband said, like, "I don't mind her talking to you. I will also have a private time with you." So the husband also agreed for the private session. So I sent the husband, asked the request of the husband to wait outside for some time so that I can have a private session with the wife. Then I talked to the wife, said that, "Ma'am, it's so nice. You have amicably resolved, and now you said something you want to talk to me." He said, "Yes, ma'am. All the things have been resolved. The family property, the bank accounts, the house which we live in, and the children, how to take care of the children, everything has been resolved. One thing which has not come into the picture is the aged parents of the husband. The mother of the husband, she is bedridden with the chronic illness, and there's a nurse taking care of her. and the children and the wife are taking care of her all the day. And any immediate attention, the nurse will call them, and they all of them will rush to them and take care of her. And the father of the husband, he is also a very old, 96-year-old man. He can't see. He is disabled because of his age, and his hearing is also very poor. And he requires attention and help to go to for his own normal routine work of going to the restroom or to eat food and everything. He needs somebody to help him. So that is the situation. So there is no talk about these two people. What are we going to do about these two people? That was her concern. See, all these things you have, I thought you didn't bring it up, and you didn't talk about it. Ma'am, everything was sorted out, but this thing only, nobody spoke, ma'am. If nobody is willing to talk about it also, they are not at all in the picture. I really love my in-laws, and my children are very much attached to them. So we are always willing to take care of them. But only thing is, we need the husband's consent to give the parents to be in the custody of the wife and the children, because the house is being given to the wife and the children. So I said, why don't you talk this to your husband? He said, no, ma'am, he is not even giving me an opportunity to talk. So I said, why don't you talk now? I will give you an opportunity. You talk to your husband. He said, before that, I'll just have a word with your husband, then we'll just talk. And the next thing was that I just called the husband and asked him about what about his work and his family and all that. He said he travels 25 days a month. And his wife is taking care of the children and everything. And he said he is very proud of his aged old parents, a 96-year-old father and all that. And then I asked him, what is your plans about your parents? Something struck him only then. He was just awestruck, like, ma'am, I don't know, but I have to take care of them, he said. Right, would you like to talk about this with your wife? I said, yes, ma'am, if she is willing. He said, she is also willing to talk to you. Come, let's have. So I called the wife and both of them and gave them the private time to each other, and I left the room, and they had a wonderful discussion together. And by the time the councils came after 1 hour with the agreement for a divorce, these two people understood each other and said, like, ma'am, we don't want that agreement. We are going to live together as husband and wife. Why? What changed? That was the first question that came up from the senior council. And I said, I thought like she didn't take care of my parents. One of my uncle and aunt who came to visit me, they said, your wife and children are not concerned about your parents. So I thought they are very bad. They are not ill-treating my parents. So that is why I wanted a divorce. I don't have any other complaints about my wife or children. This is the only concern I have. So the entire scenario changed. The senior council tore the agreement, and he said, like, that's a good thing. Just go ahead and live together. See, in a suit, normally we will expect only the husband, wife, and the children. The third party, who are aged old parents, will never came to the scene. That is an extended family, right? In India, we are all, even though we are nuclear, there are many nuclear families, we are all very connected, closely connected, though we don't live together under the same roof, right? Some of us live together under the same roof. We have an extended family. They have their own stake in this family matter. So that has to be noted down. So that was the learning that I took from that case. And the next is the case which I would like to say is about a couple. They did not want to sit with each other and discuss, and they didn't even want to look at each other. They used to send notes through their advocates. And when we discussed everything, and I wanted one session together with both of them, and I said, I'm not going to talk about you. You are big people. You have all understood. You have one girl child. And I just want you to do only one thing. just take a piece of paper, because you have been sending me papers about all your concerns and all your obligations and everything. I'm giving you a paper, you just write about this. Tell me what your child requires in her lifetime. What are the things that she will need, her needs and interests or wishes, what do you think will be? Both of them started writing, and after some time I just compared both of the lists, and then both of the lists had love, understanding. Other things were normally there: food, clothing, shelter was everything was there. And I told them, right, everything, other things you will provide, but how will you provide this love, care, and all these things? How are you going to do it? When you both don't even want to look at each other, and how is the child going to have a happy memory about her father and mother? And at that moment, they realized, for the sake of the child, they need to live in a kind of a partnership, companionship. They have to live together, but they can have their own separate life. They can go for a divorce. And they had a parenting plan, which included the wife can live in the husband's house, which is very nearby the school, and the wife can take care of the child, and he can have visitation rights, informing the wife to come when he is coming, and he can also take the child on vacations and other things. And there was a complete changeover of things, because the focus was laid on the child, because both of them were interested in the future of the child. So that was the interesting thing. And the next most interesting elderly couple dispute was that there was a maintenance case that was referred to me. When the case was referred, the wife was around 73-year-old, and the husband was around 78-year-old. They was really old. At this age, I was just curious why they are filing this maintenance case, and how long it has been pending. It has been pending for more than 15 years. More than 15 years they are spending in court, and there has been a lot of interim petitions, applications, and going to court and all these things. Everything had happened. And in the meantime, the wife had lived alone with her children, 2 children, and she had even married her daughter, given her daughter in marriage, and educated her son, and he is also likely to get married soon. And everything has been almost set right, and this lady has been living all her life separately. This man also has been living separately. And finally I said, everything is over, like finally what do you want? And then he said, like, ma'am, I have a deposit of some amount. Finally let me give it to her at the end of my life, so that at least when I die, I think like she will also be happy, safe, and I can go without a litigation. So I told her, like, your husband wants to give you some money. You can deposit it in the bank, and from the interest you can take the interest and live your life. So there is no problem. He said, ma'am, that's right. When is he coming to my house? He said. Then I was so confused. Ma'am, this case, do you know about the case? She said, yes, I know. I've been asking him to come to my house for a long time, for 20 years. What, 20 years come to your house? And there is also another petition of a divorce pending by the husband. What is this? You don't, and I don't really understand what is it. Do you know there are 2 cases pending? One is a divorce and one is a maintenance. She was shattered, literally shattered, and started weeping. In fact, she had asked her advocate because her husband was not taking care of her children and he was not coming home regularly. He was spending time more with his friends and in his office. So he wanted him, the advocate, to just give some kind of a threat, so that a warning, he comes back home and takes care of them well. But it changed in that way that the husband, they had filed a divorce case, and they are also a maintenance case. At this stage, both of them did not want a divorce. They want companionship. The lady, she started weeping and saying and confessing to the husband, please believe me, I never wanted a divorce. I never knew that there is a divorce petition pending. and she was begging him to come back. The husband was just remained very calm for a long time. And after that, he started weeping. He said, I knew it might not be your fault. I knew there was a fault somewhere else, somewhere, somebody else has created a mistake. I knew it wouldn't have been you. Then they held each other's hand and they said, ma'am, can we just go back to our life and live together? Of course you can go. There is no prohibition. Just go to the court and tell them like you want to withdraw all this petition and live together. Say, ma'am, I'm really happy. We are really blessed. We can live our life at least the last few years together in happiness. They are lost their youth and their much hard-earned money, life, time, and everything you can think about. They have lost all that. The cherished memory of giving their daughter in marriage, that also, that moment, everything he did not enjoy because of this litigation. Because his lawyer said when there is a litigation, you should not go. That normally happens. It was such I can't explain that. So much satisfaction. I wouldn't have got that satisfaction even if I had won a lottery of several crores. Okay. So at that age, people understood like it's really important that we need to live together as a companion and live for in support of each other. That miracle was brought about by mediation. Now, coming back to the role of advocates in mediation, this is very, very important because I wanted to add this because being future advocates, you should know there is a vast scope for advocates in mediation, right? There is even they can do a lot of work in pre-litigation when the parties come to them where it is a fit case to go for a divorce or litigation, or can we do a mediation before that or whatever it is, they can decide at that stage, educate the parties, do the neutral evaluation, or they can even go for a family dispute resolution process and help the parties to understand the dispute. All that can be done pre-litigation. And in pending litigation, right? In pending litigation also, before the trial starts or after the trial also, the advocate can educate the parties about mediation, about the case, their present status about the case, their possibilities, what would they get at the end of the stage. All that they can give them, and that time also they can take them to mediation. And the crucial point is after they agree for some kind of an agreement in mediation, post agreement. See, suppose people agree for a divorce and they say like, I will give you so much of money at the time of filing the petition and the time of adducing evidence, I will give you so much and I will return the articles and whatnot. But it's all a future contract. But who will abide by the contract? The people will definitely accept because they have agreed to it. But the advocates can make sure the parties abide by the contract and they follow the contract and until it is complete and they get a degree of what is being agreed. So first thing you need to do is that listen to the parties, understand and assess the wants and needs, what they want and what they need. Okay, like there is a big difference. Like the want is that I would love to have a palatial 10 grounds of plot with a house and a swimming pool near the beach with 6 or 7 rooms facing the beach. Okay, that can be an want. But what actually I need is my family is a very small family, maybe a 2-bedroom flat, 1,000 square foot. That is all I need, a roof above my head, not more than that. So there is a vast difference between the wants and the needs. If it is understood only, the parties will move to the next thing. Assess the parties to handle emotions. Emotions play a greater role in any dispute, whether it comes to litigation or mediation. It is it has a big stake in all disputes. Empower the parties with their legal rights and liabilities. Most of the cases we find that the parties are not aware of their rights and liabilities. One unfortunate incident is that in one quote I would like to quote is that the judge says, the judicial officer says to the wife, she says, "Do you call this as an harassment? He just slapped you for what you spoke. That is a normal thing. Why do you want to take it in the other way?" Then the party gave right across in the open court saying that it is up to you to accept it or not. For me, it's paining. I'm not going to accept it. She marked her boundaries clearly. If you accept, it is your fate. I don't want to accept it because I don't like it. I don't want it to be treated. I have my own rights and liabilities. Let me stick to that. So those rights and what they can get and what they cannot get, everything has to be, the parties have to be empowered with that and choose the right form. See, in case they want only a maintenance, basic maintenance, you don't go for a criminal maintenance. They can go for a civil case, file it in the sub-court or a family court, where you can get a maintenance for their wife. Why do you want to take it and put them in among all those criminal trials and everything, scare the parties, force them? Don't do that. It is very, very negative impact that has on the parties. Prepare the parties for mediation. The most important task of the mediator, the advocate, is that prepare the parties. Tell them like, this is safe. You can talk your hearts out. Resolve your problems by yourself. Do it at this kind of format. Structure it. You first still talk about your priorities, then the next things, then these things. Systemize it. All these things can be done in preparation phase. Okay. Then post settlement, I just told you, like after settlement, help the parties to abide by the agreement which they have accepted. Some of the strategies which I would like to share is that tackle the emotions first, issues first, because they camouflage everything and they change everything from top to down with the emotions. It may not be right to handle the problem. Address the values and interest. See, the value I have may not be the same what the other person has. So we need to understand what that person is thinking about that particular issue or particular property or particular value which they feel. Okay. So we need to address what is their value on that and what is their interest in that. Why do really they want that? And ask questions to understand the other person. It is not wrong in asking questions. Ask them politely. Beautifully, you can make questions, right? Ask questions and to understand that other person, not to make them feel that they are wrong, only to understand the other person better. That is the way you should ask the question. Be prepared to compromise or make a deal. Okay. Just don't be then don't make the parties make them adamant just for the sake of the suit or litigation to get through, or for the other reasons. Just don't make them go through the ordeal. Be prepared when it comes for a good deal or a compromise which is really good for the parties. Go ahead with it, and always good for look out for a win-win. Look out for what is best for you, at least good for the other party, so that the dispute resolves. Any questions on this? I would be glad to answer on this. Thank you for patiently listening to me. I hope this presentation was useful to you. Thank you.
It was indeed an insightful session, ma'am. Thank you, madam, for enlightening our attendees with your knowledge and experiences. And now I request Dr. Ketan Desai, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, to introduce our second keynote speaker for today's session, Ms. Ekta Bair, Advocate and Mediator. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, everyone. It's great pleasure for me to introduce our today's speaker, Ms. Ekta Bahl, advocate and mediator. Madam is a partner with Samvad Partner and is a partner in charge of Hyderabad office of a firm. Madam is corporate commercial lawyer. Madam is a corporate commercial lawyer who has significant experience in the corporate restructuring, insolvency, private inquiry, private equity, and merger and acquisition. Madam has substantial industrial specific experience in the area of healthcare and life science, information technology, and infrastructure, with special emphasis on road and power sector. Madam has also provided legal assistance to the various social sector enterprise and startup. Madam has completed her law from the National Law University, Bangalore. Madam is also passionate about mediation and is also qualified mediator, having completed the 40 hours mediation and negotiation training from both the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs and the International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution. Madam has also completed the specialist mediator workshop conducted by the Singapore International Mediation Center and is a member of specialist mediator panel India of SIMC. Madam is also empaneled as a mediator with the regional director South Region, Southeast Region, North Region for mediation of dispute before the National Company Law Tribunal. Madam is also empaneled as a mediator with the Center for Mediation and Conciliation, which is initiative by a Mumbai Chamber of Commerce and Industries. In addition to above, Madam act as an expert external advisor and committee member in relation to the anti-harassment issue at a workplace and under the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act 2013. Madam has also regularly undertake the training program and workshop, not just in context of Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act 2013, but also conflict management and the role of human resource in conflict management in workshop for the both member of the internal complaint committee, the senior management, the human resource team, as well as for the employee. Madam has passed the qualified lawyer transfer test, which enable a lawyers to qualified as a solicitor in England and Wales. Madam is an active charter member with TAI Hyderabad and has served 2 terms on a board of TAI Hyderabad. Madam was also awarded the most emerging mentor as the TAI award held in December 2015. Madam is also an active member of CII-IWN and the Federation of the Telangana Chamber of Commerce and Industries and has served as a part of a committee for both the organization. Chamber of Asia Pacific has featured Madam as a recognized practitioner in India for life science. Madam was also featured as a recommended practitioner for a project and energy in India. Madam has also been featured as anthology, a compendium of India's leading lawyer published by the Indian Corporate Council Association in year 2019. With this brief introduction, I welcome Ms. Ekta Bahl, Madam. Oh, thank you, Madam. Well, over to Parliament.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request our keynote speaker, Ms. Ekta Bahl, to address our audience on implicit biases in mediation. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Parul. Now, to make sure, once since we're talking about biases and we're talking about people and we're talking about how we view things, I think we can try to make it more interactive. I will keep asking some questions. Feel free to respond with your responses in the chat box. You have questions, ask them. But before I actually start on the session that I'm going to take, I'm going to start with a little story. And this story is sort of loosely based on this poem called The Blind Men and the Elephant by John Godfrey Sachs. So, let's go back. Several years ago, there was a king who brought in six wise men, and he said, I want you to examine this creature that is there in my backyard, and I want you to tell me what you think it is.
Nobody knew what an elephant was. So they all came into this wonderful open courtyard and they all started examining it. Now, the one who held the trunk of the elephant felt it up and down, and he said, "Oh, this is a snake. It's got the grooves, it's got the markings of a snake. It's a snake." The person who touched the tusks of the things found it sharp at the corners, found it smooth, and he said, "This is a spear. It's not a living creature, it's a spear." The person who went and hugged the legs of the elephant, hugged the legs, felt it up, felt it was strong, it wouldn't move, it was rough. So he says, "This is just like a tree, so it's a tree." One person decided, or two people decided to climb up the elephant. And when they climbed up the elephant, one of them was near the ears of the elephant, and the ears of the elephant were blowing. So he was like, "I'm getting some wind, and it's so cool out here. It is some kind of a fan." The person who climbed up and couldn't really reach up because he was struggling, his ladder was really short, he touched the body of the elephant. So he said, "It's just like a wall. It's hard. It's not moving. It's solid. It's very strong. It's a new kind of a wall that we're looking at." And of course, then there was one more person who decided to go at the back, and he found the tail of the elephant moving around, and the tail hit him on his face. He held on to it. It was a long, thin thing with little fibers at the back, and he was like, "This is how a rope feels like. It may be a different material, but I'm sure it's definitely a rope." Now, there were six, and they were all wise men. They were all people who sort of knew about things. But if you look at it in the larger picture and how you look at it, one called it is the same elephant, depending on the part of the body that they were looking at. They viewed it as something which was very different. Okay? And why is that so? Why do you think each of them examined an elephant and thought about it as something different? And all of them did not agree with what the other said. Because one was a snake, it's a tree, a wall, a rope, a spear, or a fan. Completely different. Why do you think that is? And we'll come to some of these questions a little later. Keep that thought in the mind. And when we go on to the next thing, there are 4 different images here, and they're all of women in ghungat. Okay. Again, I don't want answers here, and this slide we will come back to right at the end of the presentation as well. Okay, there are 4 different women here. These are actually all, I did this on purpose, did not take images of women in a ghungat. These are all people artists who have painted different kinds of women wearing a veil. And veil, I've taken the Indian version of the veil. This is the ghungat. You have veils, across the globe in different form of, different forms, different contexts, etc. But I've just taken these 4. Look at these 4 images very closely. What do these images talk to you? What do you think about the women in these images? What is your perspective of each of these women in the image itself? Okay, have a view of all of them. I'll let you pause on it for a minute, and then we'll move on. Give it a thought. Think about what they mean to you. What could they be doing? Why could they be doing something? What kind of women they are? Is it an event? Is it the kind of people they are? Yeah, Parul. Parul, you wanted to say something? I see your hand up. And so
we need to allow the participant properly. The chat is permitted, so this participants can write their answers in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm saying, but this answer to this one, I don't want it right now on the ghungat. That's why I said this slide, we will come back because we will revisit this slide right at the end, after the entire session. Okay, because this, I just want you to look at it. What do you think about it? Make your own little notes about it, and then we'll come back to it. On the first one, if you want to give an idea as to why you think the 5 men or 6 men thought differently, that you can probably type in the text box. Or Soham, do you want to say something?
So please write down in the chat box.
Cultural impositions. Cultural impositions, you're talking about the women in the ghungat, or you're talking about cultural impositions because of the 6 men? They viewed everything because what their culture teaches them. I'm not going to answer that this is okay, not okay right now, because these are questions we will discuss as we go along as well. So some of these things, keep it to the back of your mind. Okay. Now, when we look at culture in a globalized world, again, I want you to look at this entire slide very carefully. There are two sets of images there. There are, both are ads by very large multinational companies. And when we look at culture in a globalized world, why is it relevant? And especially when we come back to mediation, and we'll all link it to mediation as we go along. Today, the world is connected very closely. We interact with people across the globe on a day-to-day basis, professionally. We buy products which are not necessarily local. We buy products which are international. We have goods, products, producers that come into India, which are from, again, across the globe. We have advertisements that we see, which are not just Indian. We read books which are of Indian authors. We read books which are of French, German, you name the country, there are authors whose books and works are translated into English, and we read them. Our books, our material, our religious, our spiritual, our ancient texts are translated into other languages, and people read them as well. So you have a lot of interactions that happen between natures, between societies. And when we're talking about, while we're talking about, you have these interactions between people within a country and another country, we also have similar interactions between different regions. And when I'm talking about regions, here we can talk about state-wise. We break it down into states, that people from the north of India have different different dialects, different they speak a different language, they have different cuisines than people south of India. Within the south of India, you can break it up between saying, people from, say, Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, again, they speak a different language, they have a different script, they have different foods. Now, if you go within a state as well, say, for example, in Karnataka, you will have people who are Udupis, you'll have people from Mangalore, you'll have people from Coorg. Again, sometimes languages also vary, dialects differ, the food itself differs. Even within families, if you look at it, you could have families which are cross-cultural. You'll have, a person from region A married to a person from region B, and then you have children again, which have cross-cultural dimensions to it. Now, if you look at this as we expand and we become more integrated with each other, while on a level where we say that it's great to see people mingling and associating with the other, there are also cultural differences that we need to understand there. Now, the next thing, and I think very, very interesting observations coming, and I will take them up. Now, when I look at, there are 6 words on the screen. Okay, there are 6 words on the screen. What do each of these words mean to you? Okay, if I have to say, I am pissed. Okay, what does I am pissed mean? Anybody? Okay, I'm angry, annoyed, frustrated. Is there any other meaning that can be attributed to pissed? What happens if after you have a lot of drinks? I could be pissed drunk, I'm pissed angry. So I am pissed. Again, if you go to UK, I am pissed would usually mean you are drunk. If you go to the US, it could mean you are very angry. So just the word saying I am pissed could have 2 different meanings. Okay. The next one, I have a period. Okay, I have a period could mean, for women, it could also mean a menstrual cycle. It could also mean, in India, we call our subjects or our classrooms as periods. So I have a period. That means, or I have a break. Okay. A bonnet. That's a beautiful bonnet. The bonnet, as some of us understand, could be the bonnet of a car. A bonnet could be on the crib of a baby's, a walker. A bonnet could be a beautiful hat that is worn by little children, especially in the UK, and that's a bonnet, that's a headgear. So a beautiful bonnet could be a reference to a car, it could be a reference to a headgear, it could be a reference to even a baby's carriage. Okay, a jumper, as some of us would understand, would mean a sweater. Okay, a jumper in some parts of the world means somebody who's trying. A solicitor, when we as lawyers, we get into solicitors, etc. But a solicitor would also mean, in some parts of the world, a pimp. A chum, in slang, could again, going back to women's menstruals, could be a menstrual, reference to a menstrual cycle. In slang, chum is also somebody who's a good friend of yours, who's a bestie. Okay, so these have taken examples of simple words in English, which could, depending on the context that are used, have different meanings even in the English language. Similarly, there are words which have a meaning in English or in a regional language, which would have a completely different language or a completely different meaning in a different language. And this happens not just at a global level, that you have a different context in India and you have a different context overseas. Even within Indian languages, you have words which mean something in one part of the country and mean something else like in a different words. Like simple example I'll give you is the word chuma. Chuma means a kiss up north, and chuma means just like that down south. The word chor means rice in Kerala, chor means thief up north. So there are several words which have different meanings, when you move region to region. Sometimes, again, when context matters, a sentence, when translated from one language to another language, could have contextual differences. And if you translate it as a literal word or have a literal meaning, could mean something very, very different. And this typically happens with Southeast Asian languages. But context in terms of even translations become very, very relevant. And you always need to, when you're looking at people sitting across a table and people coming from different cultural backgrounds, you need to factor that in as well. Okay. Now I'll go to, a simple, this is, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard this entire story or you have been faced with this riddle. So for those of you who have been faced with this riddle and know the answer for it, I want you to think back that when this was posed to you, what was your initial reaction? For those who haven't, then it just says, a father and son were in a car accident. The father, was dead. And the son was taken to an emergency room, and the doctor sees the child and says, "Oh my God, it's my son." Okay, can you explain this in a minute? Don't overthink it. Just say, "How is it possible?" So, I don't know if you've heard this program or this problem before, but a lot of people. First thing they wonder, how is it possible? And this again, when you talk about stereotyping, when you talk about, how you think of the role of the surgeon, people invariably think, and this is actually a study that was done with this question. So this is a very common question when when you look at biases, when you look at how you look at, stereotyping. This is a very common example that is given, this problem, and more people respond by saying, it's a, they're like somebody said, it's a different person. Somebody would that. So the assumption is it's a surgeon, it needs to be a man. How is it possible that this is a son of two men? Very few people actually say it's a mother. They might think about it and come back with the response of being a mother, but the initial reaction is how? Because it doesn't go to the mind that the surgeon could also be the mother. Okay. Now, with that sort of initial conversations that we have, we'll get to what I'm talking about today, which is implicit biases in mediation. Okay. And when we look at implicit bias, the first thing we need to understand is that we are all people. Okay. We all come with our bag and baggage that we carry from the time we were born to what we are today. Our experiences, our influences shape us. Now, when we talk about stereotypes, can anybody tell me about, how do we look at stereotypes? And stereotypes per se can be of different kinds. You have racial stereotypes, means a person coming from the Northeast will always have eyes that are very different from people from the rest of the country. There could be things that people from the south of the India will be, maybe shorter in stature compared to people from the north of India. Then we have gender stereotypes. Mothers are always the best cooks. Then you have sexual stereotypes. Girls are usually, milder and more caring than boys. Then ethnicity, cultural stereotypes. It could be in the form of shape, how you look, how you behave, the kind of language you speak. Then it could be profiling of peoples in communities, in professions. It could be physical appearances. It could be through institutions. It could be saying that students who come from XYZ colleges will always be very intelligent. It will be saying that children who come from this particular village are generally better looking. It could be, it could be that, people who come from that community are generally very rude, or people who stay in that building behave in a particular way. So what we do is we tend to group people based on our experience and then put them in various buckets. Okay. So now when we get into understanding stereotypes, can we be free of stereotypes? Can I say today, can any one of us, and this is something that again, pause on it, think about it. Can any of you say that you do not stereotype people, that you do not put people in buckets, that you do not say that you do not generalize things, you do not pass judgment on the kind of people on the basis of their history that you're aware of, or their biology as you are aware of? Hold on to that. If you say that you are free of stereotypes and you are free of all these, conditioning which is there, we'll come back to that. Okay. Now we come back to understand bias. And before I ask bias, we live in a world that says we should be egalitarian, that there is equality. If you look at our constitution, it says we look at equality. Do all of you believe in equality? Do you think everybody is equal? If you think everybody is equal, the next question I think is, do you treat everyone as equal? And when I'm talking about, and so answers here, Parul, Priyanka, I'm not talking about, that's what I said, don't look at, and here my questions are very particular to you, each of you as individuals. I don't want you to look at on a societal level or at a very hypothetical level, or look at how things are in the country. There are people who believe in equality, there are people who don't believe in equality. Okay, is people, you are somebody who believes in equality, and I'm talking to you as an individual, because we're talking about this exercise is about to understand yourself. Okay, others can wait. We're not doing an exercise on anybody else but yourself. Okay, Pranav, that's a larger societal issue. Let's stay out of that. Let's get into examining yourself. Okay, do you believe people to be equal? Do you believe that you're as equal as each of your classmates? Do you believe each of your classmates is as equal as you are? So let's just break it down that. It's a simple question. Do you believe in equality? Now, if you believe in equality, Again, just hold on to the thought. Keep your mind, think about how you view it. Then we come to understand what do you mean by bias. Okay, because eventually when we're talking about what we're going through this session is about understanding what is a bias and how does it play out and why is it relevant to mediation eventually. Because if you look at it, mediation is that we sit on a table and I help two parties have a communication with each other. How does it matter what I think? How does it matter who's on the table? I just have to get them to think. And why this becomes relevant is because with three people or more in a room trying to understand issues, and as Priyanka, that's a conversation for another day, because reservation, it takes us to a larger issue of of sociology and how we're looking at historical issues. But when you're talking about equalities, let's take it very personal. Do you believe you have this, you are to be treated the same way as the rest of your classmates? Should the rest of your classmates be treated the same way? This is a personal view I'm asking. Okay, so there again, hold on to that thought. Okay, and we'll come to these issues when you're talking about biases subsequently. Now, bias is basically nothing but a tendency that you will have a prejudice against or something or someone. Okay, and these are typically based on stereotypes that we went into it. Okay, rather than an actual knowledge of an individual or circumstance. And please keep that word in mind. It is rather than an actual knowledge of an individual or circumstances. You don't know who those people are. You have no idea what they're going through. You don't know if they're good or bad. On the basis of a larger perception, you have made a determination as to what they are about. You believe that you know how they think, what they are trying to say, what they mean, on the value of what you perceive. Again, I'm using the word perceive very, very knowingly, because perceive has a very deep meaning here. Okay? You slot people into different buckets of what you think that they need to conform to. Okay? It could be, but at the same time, biases could be negative, biases could be positive. You could think that certain kind of students who've come from certain schools will perform better in academics than the others. They will have a better chance of probably landing up a better job and doing well in life after they graduate from law school than some of the others. So you, on the basis of what you've sort of experienced or what you sort of think about, have made a conclusion about something in the future that none of you have even gone through. Okay? And we all do that. So it's not to say that, it doesn't happen or should not happen, but everybody is, everybody is different. Now, Yashika, when you're saying not everyone is not equal, this is equal protection of law. Okay. So therefore, do you think everybody should be treated unequally? Should one person get preference over the other? Should you give better choices to one over the other? Again, I don't need answers to that. This is what is a reflection in terms of how you think and what you do. Okay. And when you get into mediation, we'll again sit on scenes. Now, once you get into understanding, okay, fine, there are biases. There are people who think about particular communities differently. Then there are also things called as bias traps. Okay. And bias traps could be information overload. It could be feeling over facts. It could be the need for speed. Okay. And, I won't get into too much here because this becomes a larger topic itself. And the simplest one is confirmation bias. Okay. Seeing information that supports existing belief. Now, let's say that I am giving you a speech about how lawyers and doctors and teachers and engineers all work hard and all are extremely successful in life, and they will do well, and etc., etc., etc. Now, when I've spoken right now, I have said doctors and lawyers and engineers and teachers. I've listed probably 5-6 professions, and I said all of them, when they work hard, they're successful. Now, when you have a confirmation bias, you could probably say, I'm a lawyer, I will be successful. You have chosen to ignore certain other words that I say. Okay, and I've said a lot of things. So, and when you probably go through the rest of the training, the rest of the workshops and classes, you'll actually figure out there are other skill sets of mediators that come into play in terms of exactly how you listen. Now, when I am listening and I am listening with a bias, I am listening to lawyer successful. So I will go out and then take the sentence and says, not thinking about if lawyers, if they work hard, they could be successful. I will say lawyers will be more successful. So what's happened is I have taken a statement that somebody else has said, and because of biases I have taken it as a confirmation of or a validation of something that I believe. Okay, similar things, feeling over. Okay, feeling over facts. Okay, I'll have in-group bias. We are in a group of people. There are 10 people in a room. I will seek out people I am only comfortable with. I will seek out people I have a background which is familiar with. Okay, I will only go about this. Okay, and I'll give you an example here. There is one apple. Okay, you and your friend are on a holiday. You are staying at a great hotel. You have an apple with you. Okay, there are stores all around. Let's say you're in a mall. Okay, you have an apple. Okay, there's a poor child there who's begging, who comes and says, Didi, I'm hungry. Can you give me something to eat? There's an apple in your hand. Okay, you don't want the apple, you're full. Then your friend comes and says, hey dude, I'm hungry. Can you give me the apple? You have an apple. You have a friend who says, can you give me the apple? There's a poor child who's hungry, who's also saying, give me the apple. Invariably, in such a circumstance, most people will give the apple to the friend, not to the poor child. Because, again, it's my friend. If I don't give the apple to them, my friend could feel upset. It's again my perception as to how the friend views me. Then it's like, it's my friend is hungry, my friend needs an apple. Okay. On the other hand, it doesn't matter if the fact that my friend, if my friend is hungry, can go to the shop to buy food to satisfy hunger, whereas this poor child cannot go anywhere because the person does not have the means or resources to go and get something to eat. So when I'm looking at giving the apple that I have, my choice of who I give it to also depends on my bias. Who am I accustomed or more likely to give it? Some of these things, of course, when you think about it, you'll be like, oh, how could you, etc. But it's okay, but the things that's how we respond. Okay. Then need to speed. Okay. Now, again, the need to speed, feel over facts example I give you is sort of blends in. But when you get into, we all get into these bias traps. We all have selective hearing. We all favor people that we know or like over others. We all have these attributes. We cannot say that one is over the other. Now, when we come to an unconscious bias, and this is where we get into understanding. So we know what bias is. And bias, we talk about racism, we talk about inequality, we talk about a lot of those things. Some of these are conscious biases. People say, I don't like something. I do not want something. I'm expressing it. But your implicit biases or your unconscious biases are things that happen at a very unconscious or a subconscious level, okay, which we all face. So like, for example, I personally as an individual strongly believe in treating everybody equally and not discriminating on certain issues on the basis of, say, race, color, gender, etc. But when I did an implicit bias association test, and there's a link to it, at the end of it. While all this is there, but this is large scale. This is very philosophical. This is very, we can talk about it. But here I want you to actually sit and think about it. Does it apply to you? If you had to put yourself in the position, how would you react? So look at it, how you view things and how you look at bias, because this is very personal. This is trying for you to understand it. At a larger societal level, yes, we can talk about how these changes are, but how do you view it? So when I say I did an implicit association test, I figured out that even though I strongly believe in the concept of treating everybody equal and not discriminating in the form of gender, race, etc., I found that my test results indicated that I had a bias. Now, when I figured out, first it was like, oh my God, something's wrong. But then when you think deeper and you start going into your actions and your reactions and you study them, you will figure out that some of these biases come out without you even wanting to. Your actions speak about these. Your reactions speak about them. So it's very important then to understand what it is. In fact, the creator of this, so this implicit association test was created by a group of scholars, a group of people who are very deep into studying about biases and how it works, and it included people from different. So it included a white person and it included a person of Indian origin. Now, when they did this, they did the test to see how it works, etc. They actually figured out when it came to racism, both their scores were equal. So the person who was of Indian origin or the East Asian, she said that's not possible. I'm a person of color. I've been discriminated. I would not discriminate against somebody of color. So they actually went through those parameters and figured out that the test was correct and there was actually no bugs in the entire test at all. And the fact that subconsciously, because of external influences, the person who was of color also had a bias against people of color. So when you look at our own association, so while I could say I'm a woman, I'm a feminist, I believe in women's rights, there could be a subconscious bias or an unconscious or an implicit bias that I may have about certain things and professions that women do or cannot do. Similarly, when I look at people, I could have an unconscious bias against people who spoke, say, English language over somebody who spoke vernacular. Now, these are not biases you will articulate saying that you have, because as a person who's consciously thinking and evaluating, you're always saying that these are biases you should not have. That I want to be more egalitarian and more equal and treat people on a different footing. But what your conscious self and your unconscious self are not on the same page. Okay. Now, when we come to mediation, now with that background as to you having a conscious knowledge and conscious belief, and then you have a subconscious belief, the implicit unconscious biases of a mediator, and all of us have implicit and subconscious biases. We are all, and as mentioned earlier, we are dealing with parties and people of different cultures and societies who are sitting across a table. We do not necessarily have a choice as to who comes across the table. We do not know what belief systems that they have. So when I sit on a negotiating table or on a mediation table and I am talking to parties, there is a two-way flow of wavelength that happens. I am viewing, perceiving the parties in front of me. The parties are perceiving me as a mediator as well. Okay? So while I might have subconscious and conscious biases against them, they could also have certain level of biases against me. I'm a woman sitting there. So there's a possibility the parties could be like, she's a woman, what does she know? Okay. I'm not somebody who's over 60. So they could be saying, she's so young. Does she have the maturity to deal with things? Okay. I could be sitting across the table and thinking about, there could be several, examples about, there's a mother, it's a custody issue. And the mother says, I'm looking at custody very differently because I have a very strong career. If I'm somebody who's got overly, I would say, how could she look at a child like this? Because she's a mother after all. Why would she focus so much on career? I have made an assumption about her and her life without even hearing her out. Going to the next thing is, so now, when we look at, as a mediator, I am making those assumptions and saying that, how could she even do that? I have put my views and my bias and my implied source with respect to a fact situation that I do not have clarity about. Now, if you look at what the purpose of a mediator, and Kavita actually mentioned it very interestingly during the first session, and she also mentioned the fact that the bias of the mediator could come through. And when you look at what a mediator does, a mediator has three, among the other skills that they bring on the table, there are three things that they do. A mediator needs to be neutral, needs to be impartial, and should have active listening skills. And I think these are issues that will probably get covered in more detail later. But the thing is that I need to be on the face. I cannot favor or side with one of the parties over the others. Okay. I need to treat them both fairly. Okay. And I need to be able to listen. And when I talk about listening, I don't mean hearing them in terms of just what the words they say, but truly listen to them. So now if I have an unconscious bias, or I have a perception about certain things that are there in one of the lives of one of the parties, and I strongly feel about it, then can I be a true mediator, or would my unconscious biases or my conscious biases refrain me from exercising the neutrality, impartiality, or even listening to the parties? For example, and I'll give you the example. So I am somebody who's far more liberal in thought. I believe that women should be free to do and achieve whatever they would like to do. Now, if I have a dispute in front of me where the party, at least one of the parties, is extremely conservative in thought, and the other party is extremely liberal in thought, and the dispute is about the issue of being conservative or liberal. For example, if there's an issue about one of the parties saying the dispute is it's a separation matter, and the parties actually the spouses sort of like each other, they don't have a problem with each other, but there's a family adaptability issue that's going around, because one of the party's parents is overly intrusive and says that in our family, in our customs, girls don't work, girls cover their head with a ghungat, girls don't talk back to the in-laws, girls have to do what the spouse or the male members in the household tell them. The other hand, you have one of the spouses is extremely liberal, who says, well, I've studied, I've educated, I need to have a life of my own, I need to be able to work, and I like working, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to go out, I want to travel, I want to see the world, I need to have a voice, and because this is a household, it's my household, I also need to have a voice to be able to express my things clearly. Now, if you look at it, when I'm on a mediating table, my personal views on the matter align very strongly to one of the parties. So as a mediator, then I need to evaluate that my unconscious or my conscious biases that I might have with respect to the subject matter, will it come in the way of me acting as a mediator, or do I need to stay away? If my views are very liberal and I will not be able to take conservative views, then when I'm trying to assist the parties in finding a solution, while practically or pragmatically, I will say I'm neutral to the thing, this might be a personal view, I will hear both of you, but my leanings unconsciously will always be towards the person who's liberal rather than the person who's conservative. So how do I say that I will be an effective mediator? It's a tough call. Okay. Can I change the views of the conservatives? Should I change the views of the conservative parties? Can I ask the liberals to be a little more conscious or aware of what the conservatives want? Or do I, as a mediator, stay clear of the conservative versus the liberal issues involved and just look at it as two parties who are trying to figure out how to coexist? And irrespective of whether it's conservative or liberal, look at the points of contention that they are. Look at what the underlying interest is and not look at it as a liberal or a conservative issue. Because sometimes what happens is, if you break it down and you look at your unconscious biases, one is you need to be more aware of when your biases are coming forward. And as a mediator, you have to be very careful that you don't fall into bias traps. So even things, Parul, I agree with you, things are never black and white. But then at the end of the day, As a mediator, you're there to do a particular job. And your responsibility is to be neutral and impartial to the parties and really listen to them. So eventually, are you really doing that? So for a mediator, it's very important for them to be very, clear in their minds as to how do they deal with their own biases, because these biases can always come up without you being aware that they're around. Okay. So now the next slide. This is an image. I mean, these are series of images. And so I'm going to ask everybody, what do you see in these images? What do you see in these images? What do people see in these images? Anyone? A bunch of images. Yes. So yes, it's mankind and mud. Why is there mud? Kids playing in mud. True. There's poverty also. True. Poverty and pain. Not all are poverty and dirt. So look at it. This is all speaking time with loved ones. Now let me tell you, each of these images has a different story to tell. Okay, and how each of you are viewing it. Whereas look at hardships, child labor, pain, somebody seeing enjoyment, somebody seeing poverty. Okay, these are all your perceptions of how you've looked at each of these images. Okay, this little girl who's running near the stream, she's actually participating in a race and she's fallen down. Okay, these little kids, these two little boys here who are playing with a man in the blue t-shirt, they're actually taking part in it's called a mud photo shoot. Okay, it's part of a mud photo shoot and they're all sort of just understanding mud and they're really enjoying themselves. Okay, the two little boys on the corner near the wall, they are getting their house ready. They're helping their parents set up the house there. Okay, the gentleman in the extreme left corner it's part of the custom. It's part of an initiating process. Okay, the girl down in the middle actually is a very sad story. Okay, that is her trapped in mud and ashes from a volcano. Eventually, she died like that. Okay, the group of people on the left who are being helped up, they're stuck in a mudslide. Okay, there are construction workers here. There are people who are just gone having fun. Okay, there are people who are part of a landslide. So there's somebody here who's just had a good time, who's had a mud bath from a health perspective. I've gone near somewhere and it's mud and it's good for my skin. Okay, there's somebody who's gone and played with mud in the rain. I know these are simple examples, but I'm saying eventually if you look at what is the common thing among all these photographs is there are people and there is mud. It's a very basic thing. There's mud, we have mud all around. But when we have mud on our bodies, okay, how do we interpret what that mud on our body means? Now, if there's somebody who's in front of you and has mud on their body, okay, you could assume, and again, when you assume that they're poor, you could assume that they probably had a lot of fun and come. You could assume they were part of a sports event and they've come. You could assume that there has been a tragedy and because of which there were probably an accident and they've come. So what you paint behind the picture is your thoughts, is your assumption of when you see a person covered in mud. And this person is somebody you don't know. Okay. So what happens is what you do and how you look at this is your bias coming through. It is your stereotyping of that image of a person covered in mud going through. You, without speaking to somebody, it comes with it. Now, and Ria, very interesting thing. You said mud is unhygienic, but if you go and roll in mud in Jordan or Israel, it's extremely hygienic. You go and roll in mud in a stream, which is a hot spring, it's extremely healthy. There are people who actually believe it's good for the skin. So again, which mud, where mud, how mud, why mud? Now, these are questions and answers we don't know. So the minute we put in assumptions and we categorize and label people, that is our thoughts coming to us. And Ria, that's very true. It depends. So when you're looking at unconscious biases, okay, you have made an assumption without figuring out what is it that it depends on. And these are things that all of us have, where we label and as underlying things without understanding why somebody is doing something. Okay. Now with this we'll just go back to, okay, this is the link to the implicit assessment test that Harvard has. You could actually just go and do it and figure out what your own biases are. I have also given there is very interesting movies and videos about biases as well. So there's actually a documentary called Bias and Coded Bias. I don't know if they're available free for use. I know Bias is available on Apple TV. I'm not sure if it's actually come out for others as well. Coded Bias actually talks about how in artificial intelligence, or when we look at code, the code is biased too, because eventually it reflects the biases of its makers. There's actually a very interesting book about how technology itself is biased against women. I can share some of those readings and references to those who are interested in it. The science behind implicit bias, the American Bar Association has actually come up with an entire program on how it's important for lawyers to understand implicit biases. They've actually made a very nice video about the science of implicit bias. The link for that is also here. Before I end the entire session, I'd like to just go back, to the first 3 slides. Okay. The first slide, again, when we said that each of them looked at it differently, and because they're all blind, they can't see what it is, so they're not seeing the whole, they're seeing only a part. So when they see a part, they make an assumption on the basis of what they are touching, feeling. They are associating that part with something that they're aware of. It could be a wall, rope, tree. They have not seen the whole picture. It's only a part of the picture. Okay, and this part of the picture could be a cognitive bias. Okay, it could be a confirmatory bias. Okay, and some of these biases are things that we carry. We do not see the whole picture. We see part of the picture, and we make assumptions, and we take deductions. We react to people on the basis of this part, image of part knowledge. Okay, now coming to the Ghungat. I know, there were a couple of people who actually said, in the beginning that there are, there were different views. I'm just going back. The ladies of Ghungats are from different walks of life. Anybody else? What cultural impositions? Okay, so you're looking at them as people who are, there's a cultural imposition on them. Okay, anybody else? What do these women in Ghungat represent? What do these women mean to you? Now, if in a mediation table, okay, I have a woman who comes to me with a headgear, who's dressed like any one of these people. Or if you're at the table and somebody walks into the room dressed like any of these, what would you make out of them? You're saying restrictions, okay. What if it is choice? Some are willingly do it, okay. But what will you do that? How will you talk to this woman? Traditional discretion. Respecting traditional values of their family by choice. Nilkant, how are you sure it's choice? What if she's oppressed? What if the issue is because of oppression? To be optimistic, it's portraying beauty. You're looking at it visually, Priyanka. You're looking at it as looking beautiful to you. She's looking appealing to you. Timid or respect. She could be a firebrand under that banner. Okay. For some, it's just fashion, which could be there. It's just there. Okay. Now, there are other things as well. You've put these people in buckets. Okay. Now, Shashikant's painting looks like it's a bride. What if she's just getting married? She's just dressed in by a bride. If in the next moment, she'd probably be dressed in Western clothes. She might be living in the US. She's just dressed like this. What if the Ghungat by Madhavi, she's part of, it's a new it's a new image of where she likes to dress, cross cultural, and she's actually wearing it's a crop top with jeans at the bottom. You only look to the perspective or her image, above that. What if the picture by Omkar Kochre is a woman who's actually had cancer and she's actually shaved her head and she's covering it because she doesn't want other people to see, the hair that she has. Okay. What if in Ghungat by Sadhvi Mahat, I talked about this, what if she's actually in an extremely sunny place and she doesn't have a cap and she's just taken a shawl to cover her head? And none of this has anything to do with culture, tradition, symptoms, or anything like that. What if Ghungat by Nabiha is actually that she's just feeling cold and it's just a shawl? It is not a headgear in that sense. So again, you have looked at these images. Okay. If you've actually done this, so when you look at, whether you're looking at it in terms of oppression, when you're looking at its orthodox, when you're looking at its timid, how have you viewed these women? Why are you viewing these women because of that? You've not spoken to any of them. You don't know any of them. You don't know any of the circumstances, but you have labeled them to be either somebody who's culturally compliant, somebody who's oppressed, somebody who is looking beautiful. You don't know whether there's a lot of makeup under that as well. And they're trying to hide scars that have been perpetuated on them by some oppressor. You don't know any of that. But because of your cultural influences while you've been growing up, of looking at what a ghungat means, or people you've seen in your family wearing a ghungat and their behaviors, you have typically assumed that people who come to you in a ghungat will stand for something which is an imprint of your bias vis-a-vis a ghungat. And here when I'm using the word bias, it's not a negative, or it's just a bias. I'm not talking about in terms of a negative or a positive. It could just mean that it is your reflection of what that image is supposed to be. Now we'll come to the last slide, again, coming back. When we look at a culture in a globalized world, and when I put these two images here, now these are ads by large companies, etc. Can you tell me what is wrong about these ads and why is it wrong? Bhavya, that's very true. Yes, all women have to hear, etc. But I'm saying that when somebody comes in front of you, so that's what I said. I agree with you completely. But when a woman actually comes in front of you, okay, and there is a woman in a ghungat sitting there quietly, and there's a woman who's very vocal sitting next to you, who's speaking to you in the language that you understand, and the woman in the ghungat who will probably speak to you in a vernacular language that you can't understand, the chances are that you will give, if you're not very conscious about your biases, the chances are you will give one of them a hearing better than the others, or you will give one person more hearing compared to the other. Okay, the image on the left is actually Malala. There's an image of Malala, and there's actually a mattress at the bottom. So it's like Malala is falling on a bed and then she's bouncing back up. And the right is an ad for Pringles. Now, what do you think is an issue with both these ads? And there are actually several examples. These I could figure out which were, pictorial depictions. So I'm bringing out the images here, but there are several other ads which, have had cultural issues in them. So both these ads actually came under a lot of flack. Now, those who understand Islam know that bacon is absolute no-no. So in the holy festival of Ramadan, you've actually put an ad for Pringles with smoky bacon, not understanding the cultural nuances there. The one on the left is that it was, on the left actually shows that Malala, who's actually somebody who's actually done a lot of effort and has come back on her own merit to fight against oppression and made a name for herself. You're downgrading her, her strength, and you're saying that it's a mattress that has actually made her pulled her up, and it's not her effort. So you've actually put an image of Malala who was shot in the head and saying, yeah, you bounced off a mattress and you became strong and you were healed. So one was that it sort of went against the integrity or the efforts of Malala as a human being. The second one is that you were insensitive to the to the religion itself, for whom you were trying to wish. So with that, I would end the session here in terms of, and I will open it up for questions. And I think I'm on time so far. So any questions, happy to take them.
Ma'am, we have Mr. Hemang Shah, who is going to deal with the question and answer session. So over to you, Hemang, sir.
Thank you, madam. Ekta madam, there are a few questions for you. May I ask?
Of course, of course.
Sure. Okay. So our participants want to know that how do they handle negative bias during mediation process?
So negative bias, again, clarification to the question. Negative bias against you as a mediator, or negative bias that you may believe that you have against one of the parties.
It is with reference to negative bias with reference to one of the parties to the dispute.
So the two things here. One is the negative bias very strong that you have, that it will interfere with you being a mediator and you're not able to filter it out? So which means as a mediator, you keep evaluating yourself, you keep evaluating what sort of biases you have and where you stand on positions. So if there is something which comes to, yes, if it is a very conventional liberal sort of an argument, if it actually reaches a stage where it is completely challenging my personal beliefs and very strong, and I have very strong personal beliefs, then as a mediator, I will excuse myself. I will say that I don't believe that I can be fair on this because my personal views conflict with some of the things which have been said. And I have to do it very nicely. I cannot say, I don't agree with you and you're being mean. So at the end of the day, I will also see whether it's a dispute or it's a conflict that I will be prejudiced about when I am acting as a mediator. Okay. The other thing is that if it is a softer issue, which I believe that I can, keep outside the room and then be a mediator only on the underlying issues without getting into, the example I gave earlier, it's a conservative versus liberal. If I'm able to put that conservative liberal debate outside the room and look at it, is it two people just trying to talk to each other? Okay, and filter that out, then I will deal with it in that manner. I will not think about it as liberal and conservative, but that is something that I will need to take a pause. The minute that issue comes in and I know that that's something that could challenge my biases or that I'm biased towards. Because see, when I'm talking to the parties, I will hear myself also. So when we talk about hearing other parties, as a mediator, I need to listen to what I say as well. I cannot say that, I will say whatever I feel like. I have to hear my voice as well. And if I feel that my voice that is coming out, has, words of bias coming out, and I say that I know I'm probably being more partial to one party compared to the others, as a mediator, I need to pause there. I need to take a break there. I have to evaluate myself. Of course, this doesn't happen like, I can spend 4 days about it because the parties will wonder what's happening, but you will evaluate yourself and you will get back in the room with either a decision to continue after having sorted out how you want to deal with it, or if it is too much for you to deal with, then excusing yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, madam. Now one more question, general in nature. One candidate want to know that I would like to undergo a training to practice as a mediator. So how do I go about doing that?
So there are several training programs that are available, within the country of a 40 hour. But, if you want to be a mediator, that 40 hours it's not that you do 40 hours and you've done it. Okay. I think mediation is a lifelong learning. There are just too many things that we don't know. For me, I'm still learning. I still read, I still study, I still take courses, I look at experts, and experts not just from the field of mediation, fields from the experts from sociology, psychology, anthropology, even lawyers, advocates, whoever it is. But there's always a constant learning. There's always a search to know more because eventually you're dealing with humans and you're dealing with people. You're dealing with issues that we don't really understand because we have to understand the people.
Yes, madam. And last for you, madam, how to shift parties from position to interest when bias is being uncontrollable?
That I think that's a skill set, and there I don't think you see there you're talking about, so if it is a mediated bias, we've always said you take a call and you figure out how to deal with it. But if there are, you will face parties who have biases, okay, and it's just whether it's biases or whether it is hard positions. You need to get them to figure out interests, and you know, as Kavita said, there could be biases. I don't like my brother. I think he's horrible. I think he's there. Okay, and Kavita really beautifully explained that you start figuring, you move away from those biases and you take them to relationships, you take them to other issues that are discussed about. You don't touch the bias, you deal with other issues. You say, you know, how was it during childhood? Okay, when, and you start trying to also understand the parties. When did this position on bias come about? And the bias could be, as I said, so suppose it's a conservative versus liberal. Okay, I could look at it as a thing that, you know, you want her to follow all the traditions. Okay, or I could say that, you know, you're a mother-in-law, you're a woman, you know, what were your young dreams? Okay, and your son likes her a lot, he doesn't have a problem with her, do you want him to be happy? Okay, it's, of course you won't use the same words, but you know, you'll deal with it depending on the circumstances, depending on the kind of people are in the room. You will change your language to sort of work with them, but you'll get them to see other issues, you'll get them to see happiness of a child. Okay, you'll get the liberal to see that, you know, if you're looking at somebody you love, okay, there are people who are all kinds of different. Yes, you want to work, yes, you want to do, but there are cultures and traditions. How much are willing you to look at it for somebody you love? You've done things for your parents that you know, you might have never have liked something, but you did it because it mattered to them, that you cared about them. It was as long as it doesn't touch upon some of your core beliefs, how much are you willing to sort of do? And then let them start, then let them get into the conversation.
Thank you, madam. Uh, uh, now, may I request Kavita, madam? Some questions are for you, madam, as well. May I,
Yeah, of
madam?
course.
Thank you, madam. Madam, the question is one question is general and then it is specific. Can we practice mediation and advocacy at the same time? This was a general question which was being asked.
Yes, basically I am a lawyer, right? I do litigation is my portfolio, and then I also do mediation. That's two-way thing. But only thing is, you should learn to remove your hats and wear the new hat. If you're not able to remove your hat, then you're not doing justice to the work you do. Okay. And the second thing is, we, by our skill set and learning and experience, there's a wonderful term, detached attachment, right? You need to learn, you need to master that detached attachment. You stay detached with the people, but at the same, whatever their biases or thoughts and whatever the perspectives, whatever opinion they have, that is, you don't have to agree to it, you don't have to disagree to it. You just stay detached to that, right? If that is not to you, you stay attached and concentrated on resolving the dispute. So that's different. You don't become the parties.
Yes, ma'am. Now, a few questions are with reference to today's session. One is, usually in partition matters amongst family members, the entire family is involved. So how to manage such family mediations when there are many family members having different interests involved?
Yeah, it is a tough job, but we need to gather first thing we need to get is that get the family tree done, right? That's get it from, call them and ask them who was their grandfather, father, mother, grandmother, everybody there. Get the correct stakeholders. That is very, very important, right? From the parties itself. That is the most important thing. The advocates will always give us, but still we get it from the parties. Like that will also make them go through the entire their family once again, revisit their family. Like my father, my mother, grandmother, the story will go different way. Okay, so that will also take them in a different way. So once you understand who are the parties, and there will be sometimes mostly unnecessary parties. Like
Yes.
they would have married their sister's daughter, or uncle's must be there. Like, unless my uncle says, I will not take part in this. So you will have to have a separate session with the uncle and tell them, right, people will come back and consult with you, and now the decision will be taken only with your consultation, but not now. Let the parties talk now, and then we'll get back to you. So giving them what they want and the free hand to play will help a lot.
Okay, madam. And last question, madam. In divorce matters, the conflict is taken more between families rather than the parties. So at times the couple might not have any issues amongst them, but the families do have. So
Yes.
how can we manage such situations?
So why do we get this situation? First, please, let's understand. See, in Indian context, it is not just two people marry in marriage. It is two families that get into marriage.
Yes.
Okay. It might, their personal life may be very little or restricted, but the entire the marriage thing covers, it's a spectrum that it covers. So that spectrum you cannot disturb. You have to maintain equilibrium with that spectrum, right? But only thing is, we have to learn to mark our borders, our boundaries. Unless you learn to make your boundaries, then one will merge with the other, there will be a conflict. So then you have to segregate that and help the parties understand where their rights or liberties or their interest ends and where the other parties things begins. So that boundaries, we have to help them to understand and mark their boundaries. Then everything will set to place.
Thank you, madam, and thank you both the madams. Now over to you, Parul, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed an insightful and enlightening session. And with this, I request Ms. Kavita Bhatia, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, to convey the vote of thanks. Over to you, madam.
Yeah, Miss Kavita, before you start with the vote of thanks, Kavita Balkrishnan ma'am has to say something to the students. So let her give an opportunity first and then you can take over the vote of thanks. Yes, ma'am, you wanted to share something to the students.
Thank you, Namrata. This is an interesting thing that we would like to share. Like Ekta is a joint secretary in Mediators India, and I'm just happy to share that when she is also sharing this platform. As we all would have heard about SAMA, an organization that is very well done with the initiative of the student initiative of Pranjal Sinha and Akshita Ashok. And they have run an ODR platform, and that is helping resolve disputes in online dispute resolution. But Mediate in India, as a staunch believers in the power of the youth participation, we would like to formally invite law students from your prestige college to serve as case managers in one of the largest access to justice campaign in Maharashtra, Gujarat, through the State Legal Service Authority in Gujarat. Like there is a program that has been conducted with SAMA and with the help of World Bank, that they are working as together to explore, evaluate the effectiveness of online Lok Adalats in India and conduct an impact assessment on this project on all stakeholders. So it will therefore be a great opportunity to be a part of this rare initiative. Okay. So what does this have for the students here? See, as case managers, it's a wonderful opportunity to be case managers while you are studying and your internship or during your holidays or something like that. So you will have an in-depth knowledge about handling the case, the parties, a new perspective and everything. The case managers will have the opportunity of aiding the state legal service authorities and interacting with the state legal authorities, district authorities and all these people and litigants, lawyers, and they'll be having a first-hand knowledge about using the ODR platforms. And sometimes there is a lot of scope of seeing a real life dispute resolution taking place completely online, right? Sama is giving training, free training for this, and they are giving up the opening up this platform and giving opportunities to 50 students. And the first come first serve basis, whoever is interested can just apply to it. And then so 50 students are being selected, and then they are trained, and they will be given that opportunities to be case managers. And apart from this, and special initiatives, Sama is also felicitating them with the top 3 case managers with some cash prizes. So this is a wonderful opportunity. I think that students of our university should know about it and get themselves involved. I will share the link with your professors, and so that you can also join that, or click to Sama and look at it, Sama's website for it, right? Then you can go ahead and do it. It's a wonderful opportunity. Please go ahead and then look about it. That is what I was just wanting to tell. While you learn this process, you have a hand-on experience about real life cases. So
Just
that is
adding
it.
to, yeah, and Kavita, just adding to what you were saying, see what happens
Yes.
is, if you're really interested in mediation, you see the cycle of mediation, you also get to interact with the mediators. And since a lot of the groundwork is typically done by the case manager, there's a lot of interaction that happens between the parties and the case manager, and also the mediator and the case manager. So sometimes, if there are issues that come up during the mediation, you can even speak to because you are privy to that entire confidential process, you actually have that one-on-one with the mediator as well. So that becomes a good learning, to add to what Kavita was saying.
And you can share the link with us. We'll definitely put in the official WhatsApp groups of the students so that they can take the benefit of it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
I think Ms. Kavita Bhatia, I think you can now propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon, one and all present here on this virtual platform. It seems since morning we are gathered here to spread peace. It's indeed a great pleasure of mine to propose heartiest gratitude to all those who have been a part of this online national webinar on mediation. I, Kavita Bhatia, on behalf of the Faculty of Law, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, and on my personal behalf, extend my sincere and profound gratitude to Honorable Professor Dr. Vijay Kumar Srivastava, sir, the Vice Chancellor of the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, the patron of the webinar, for his guidance and support in organizing this webinar. I owe my deep gratitude to respected Professor Uma Iyer Madam, Officer on Special Duty, Faculty of Law, and the Director of the webinar for her constant guidance and encouragement in all aspects of teaching, learning, and rewards. Thank you so much, ma'am. I also extend my hearty thanks to Ms. Kavita Balakrishnan Madam, Advocate and Mediator, and Secretary of Mediators India, also the collaborator of this national webinar, and the convener of this webinar, for taking all pain in coordination with the eminent speakers of this national webinar series on mediation. I would like to also extend my thanks to Madam for sharing her insights on the topic civil family mediation. Ma'am, you have explained the beauty of the mediation process in very lucid manner with real life examples. You have also explained us how the disputants had resolved their disputes amicably without spoiling their relationship. I must say the session was thought-provoking, and it would be very helpful to all participants of this webinar. I'm sure that we will cherish the same forever. Thank you so much, ma'am. I also extend my profound thanks to Ms. Ekta Bahal, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and for sharing her valuable thoughts on the topic implicit biases in mediation, which is an essential component of mediation process. Ma'am, you have explained very effectively the perception with the help of examples like elephant and ghungat, and also how people develops a different perception under different circumstances. Ma'am, you have explained very well how biases develops during mediation process due to words are used in different contexts. Ma'am, I have also explained the role of mediator very nice manner and how to deal with those biases. Ma'am, it was a stimulative session and I trust that the deliberation would help our young aspirants of mediation in their future endeavors. Once again, thank you, ma'am. I also extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Navita Luhar, ma'am, Assistant Professor and the convener of this webinar for her everlasting support in coordination of this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all the help and guidance for the coordination of this webinar. I also extend my hearty thanks to all senior teachers of the faculty, Dr. Ashna Kadekar, madam, Associate Professor, Dr. Ghanshyam Solanki, sir, Associate Professor, Dr. Rajendra Parikh, Assistant Professor, for their guidance and support in all academic endeavors. I'm also thankful to my colleagues at the faculty, Dr. Sanjay Solanki, sir, Dr. Ketan Desai, sir, Mr. Himang Shah, for their cooperation in happening of this webinar. Thank you all. I'm also thankful to the Master of Ceremony to this webinar, Ms. Parul Singh and Mr. Rajkumar Gupta, for their kind support. Thank you, Parul ma'am and Rajkumar sir. I also extend my special thanks to reporters of this webinar, Ms. Sejal Roshi and Ms. Rinu Rana, for jotting down the momentum of this webinar. Thank you, Sejal ma'am and Rinu ma'am. Last but not the least, I'm thankful to Ms. Jankana Jani for her technical support and the administrative and service staff for their cooperation for making this event successful. I would end my words by proposing thanks to all the participants of this webinar for their participation and making this event a grand success. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for collaborating with us and joining us for this webinar. Both the sessions were really very interesting, and I'm very sure all of them would have learned a lot. Like we have learned a lot from both the sessions. And very interestingly, you talked about the practical aspects and all the things. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Looking forward for many such.
Thank you so much.
So we'll be doing the next webinar next Saturday now, and we'll share the link and all those things with the concerned speakers as well as all the distinguished speakers of the webinar. Thank you, Ekta ma'am. We'll call you again when we'll bother you again for some other things. And we have taken over the charge of Kavita ma'am. So she's like, no, just very near to us. So we can just give her a call at any point of time and bother her at midnight also. So ma'am, don't think that this webinar is going to be the last thing. We look forward for many such associations in future.
It is our pleasure.
Ma'am, I remember your kind gesture when I just proposed this webinar series and you accepted the this task very spontaneously, and I'm really grateful to you, Kavita ma'am, for getting all the eminent speakers in this webinar.
It's our pleasure to interact with this prestigious college and students. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Dean Madam is in some meeting, so she's not able to continue till the end of the webinar. But she has also conveyed her thanks and gratitude for conducting the sessions. So please accept her gratitude on her behalf from me.
I think we should also be thanking you that you gave us an opportunity to interact with all the students. So
yes.
So, because the way we look at it is, the future of mediation is with students.
True.
So the more we can interact with them, the more they will understand things. So.
And in fact, ma'am, since the inception of SCADR, we just got the permission from the university in the last year itself, somewhere in the month of September or so. And since then, we have been focusing entirely on mediation. So we believe that no more of mediation inputs if been given to the students, that will definitely help them in resolving the conflicts that are existing in the society. Uma ma'am has joined back after the meeting, so
Thank you so much. I think everybody enjoyed your talk. I had been listening to you all intermittently, but it was good. I think even a layman can understand what you people had said. And I'm sure the students would have taken a lot of learnings. And I think good. Today, both the sessions were really very good. And a lot of effort, and passion is required to continue in the mediation business. Yeah. So good. Hope we are able to help the society in some way or the other through these sessions. Thank you so much.